Hey there, if you've enjoyed this podcast, do me a favor and hit the like button, the subscribe button, the follow button. Just hit any button on the screen that you can find. Thanks for the support. Now let's dive into this week's episode.
Welcome to the Path Less Traveled podcast, where we dive into the untold stories of business leaders who forged their own path. Join Craig Heatherly, your guide on this journey of unlocking the keys to leadership success. This is the Path Less Traveled podcast. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Go.
Welcome to the Path Less Travel podcast. This week we feature Jeff Breiler, the President of Goshen Stamping. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and welcome to Goshen Stamping.
Can't wait to learn more about it. My first question to you, What does life outside of Goshen Stamping look like for you?
Rest and recovery.
Yeah?
Not exotic. I go home. We work 5-6 days a week, but so I just go home at the end of a long, busy day. Like most people, if there's obligations at home, take care of those, and then try to unwind. I don't live a real exciting life.
Well, what does
I reflect on that question?
What does unwinding look like?
I just watch a lot of sports.
Yeah.
Watch a lot of sports. Try to distract myself from the day, and then I think when you find yourself distracted, you start to do some good thinking, or sometimes you just unwind and veg out. So for me, it's whatever needs to be done around the house. I have 2 boys at home still. Whether it's working with them on something, there's no real set routine. Just dinner's over and just hit the couch.
Before we got going here, I mentioned that I haven't come across many individuals that are Leatherneck alumni. And most listeners are probably thinking, what's a Leatherneck?
Leatherneck is the nickname of the Marines, I believe, taken by Western Illinois University. They needed special permission to use that nickname. And I went there after graduating from Purdue and to get a master's in sports management. I had a roommate at Purdue whose dad was the vice president of marketing and broadcasting for the Chicago White Sox. And I had intended to go into sports psychology. As I got closer to graduation, realized and learned, it's a lot of clinical work. Mm-hmm. Back then, if you may remember, the Atlanta Braves kind of made famous the use of sports psychologists. Okay. I don't remember his name, but he made a name for himself back when they were really good. But you don't know that he spent 30, 40 years in a clinical setting before breakthrough moments with professional athletes. So I realized I don't know that I want to be in a clinical setting. So my roommate turned me on to the sports management degree, and I looked at Ohio State, Ohio University, I believe, has a really solid graduate degree than Western. Well, it was argued at the time that Western could have run professional baseball with the number of grads they have.
Oh, okay.
And, with the Chicago White Sox, there were a couple high-placed executives from Western Illinois, so that's why I chose it.
Macomb, Illinois.
Yes.
All right. Well, we are in Goshen, Indiana. Tell us about Goshen Stamping.
Goshen Stamping is now in its 101st year. Been making metal stamp parts that whole time, have grown. If we walk around the building, you can see the seams where addition after addition after addition is made. Made a name for ourselves in a couple industries. The education space, many decades ago. So if you think of a classroom maybe that I attended, maybe not you, there were a lot of maps on the chalkboard, and state of Indiana, United States, and then maybe your city or county map. Well, they're called map boards. We made all the hardware that those maps were mounted to, and they would slide on. So we made a pretty big name for ourselves in the education space. A lot of classrooms around the country had our hardware in them, and that was our biggest industry a long time ago. Well, with the evolution of classrooms to more digital settings, we don't do that much anymore at all. Then we stepped into the ladder space. There was 50, 60, maybe longer years ago, used to be 3 ladder manufacturers, maybe more here in Goshen. And as the story goes, this is long before me, one of the leaders of one of those organizations came here and said, "Hey, can you guys stamp this metal part for us. Yeah, we could take a look at that. So from that moment to today, we're North America's leading supplier of metal stamp parts to the ladder industry.
Wow.
We made parts starting back then for the local company, but as we grew our presence, we started selling these ladder metal components to all the ladder companies in North America and United States. And then over time, a company called Warner Ladder started to grow and buy up all these ladder companies. And there's only a couple of, where we used to do business with 40 some ladder companies, we now do business with maybe 15.
Okay.
And maybe 20. 99% of that is Warner. So they bought up everybody. There's a couple of other big players that we've dabbled with and used to do some business with, not so much anymore. But we're heavily reliant on Warner, and to the point where we knew that was a risk, so we tried to sell more to drive down our reliance on them. Well, they kind of hastened that by deciding to offshore or to source to China in the last few years, Mexico. So we're trying to evolve into other industries and make a name for ourselves similarly in either the solar space, packaging space, electric grid, with making some hardware for like telephone poles that carry data wires and so on. So that's a little bit about the history of Goshen Stamping.
Isn't that interesting? Just I love hearing companies that have to continue to pivot as innovation and technology changes, and obviously you guys are having to do that. So is that exactly what's next? Identifying what the opportunities are, or do we kind of know what is next for the company? We've
chosen some industries that we'd like to get into. It's not easy. A lot of places have well entrenched vendors.
Right.
The biggest hurdle for, I think, a manufacturer like us, and maybe others, I would assume others, is China or overseas, not just China, but India, Vietnam, Mexico. It's hard to compete price-wise with other countries, okay, for whatever reasons. So a lot of the industries that we want to break into, we're competing against companies that have overseas manufacturing already in place. So it's not easy. So you have to figure out how you can, what gap still exists, try to find that gap, and then maybe just fulfill that a little bit. And either that's enough or, that's a good start, and then we grow from there. So that's what we're in the process of doing. The garage door space is another one. If you look at a garage door from the inside, a lot of parts that we could be making. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to find industries with parts that are stamped, that are perfect for us. There's a lot of different stampings in the world. And so we just keep looking for those opportunities. And then we don't want to just make it transactional. We want to get involved in the industry. So we've joined some associations so we can learn, be a better vendor, hopefully someday to some folks. So
very nice. Well, the title of the podcast is The Path Less Traveled. And when you hear that title and you think about your journey, what comes to mind?
Wow. How about that? We spoke, a little bit before. I have a degree in sports management. I got my start in sport. I love sports. That's how I relax. That's what I do to distract and unwind. I love sports, all sports. There's very few sports I don't watch. And I started down the path of the business of sport. And here I am now in a manufacturing environment. I mean, doesn't get much different than that. So how do I get here? There's a series of movements from, the beginning of your career, events that occur, seminal events, and then a thing here, a thing there, and you find yourself doing something you never would have dreamed of. And that's kind of at a high level without going into the details. That's how I got here. It's just, there's a lot of details along the way if you're interested, but
as you assume the president role here 6 years ago, kind of walk us through maybe some of the steps in your leadership journey, whether it be the last 6 years or your career, that you've had to develop and put focus and attention and time towards to be an effective leader.
Yeah, leadership isn't easy. It's hard, okay? And there's a lot of aspects to leadership. that you need to learn and get better at, whether it's strategy, whether it's execution. But for me, the hardest thing probably is to come to get comfortable with conflict. I don't like conflict. It's not in me to naturally enjoy conflict or understand the value of conflict. That's in the last 6 years, I think I've really embraced that. Embraced myself that I don't like it, but then also embrace the process of conflict. Okay, if conflict is built on a solid foundation of trust and pursuit of the same goals, the two conflictants then can argue and have conflict, but it's in pursuit of a higher calling, and if they both are in agreement, it'll be productive. Sometimes conflict isn't so collaborative, and it's a little more one-sided because you have to tell somebody something or do something that maybe is uncomfortable. So I'd say, conflict is the thing that I've had to, over my career, recognize is difficult for me, and learn that it's not always bad. And once you do it, get through it, you, more times than not, come out better on the other side. It could be maybe you had a problem with a customer. Maybe you let a customer down. Maybe you didn't fulfill an obligation. And you have to reach out and say, hey, I need your help. We made a mistake. And here's a mistake we made, and I'd like to work with you to figure out how to get it right. And more times than not, I've learned when you use the words or the phrase, I need your help, people tend to respond in kind. Then you work together, and maybe they're still a little upset with you, but if you just own it, that's conflict. So anyway, so for me, it's been conflict getting through that part of the journey.
Yeah, it's like anything else. You've got to get more swings at the plate, but that plate, you don't want to. I think all of us don't want to experience that.
Yeah,
but
yes.
I get asked a lot, like, how do people handle hard, difficult conversations?
Yes.
And you just got to be in them more.
Yeah. I think the hard conversations begin days, weeks, months, maybe even years before the hard conversation. It begins with setting expectations, fair, clearly communicated expectations with feedback. Once you get to what people would call the hard conversation, nothing should be a surprise to anybody. And that's where I've really become more comfortable with it. So understanding that you've got to be fair and expressing your expectations of whoever you're working with. And then if they get off track, work to get them on track, give them feedback. And then if it's in baseball jargon, 3 strikes you're out. So if you give them those first 2 strikes to try to get them refocused, the third strike, that tough conversation isn't really that hard as it turns out. It's just you're the one that has to share the news. So hard conversations, to me, I think, begin long before the conversation is had. A hard conversation is just the end of the inevitable. And if you've been fair along the way, both sides know it's coming.
So what advice would you give to a younger you or a new leader that is facing this, or just stepping into a leadership position for the first time in their career?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, know why you're there. Don't be there for the title, the benefits, the whatever. Be there because you love something and you're chasing something. Okay, have a vision, have a dream, whatever you want to call it. BHAG in good to great parlance. Be pursuing something that you're passionate about, that you care about, that you love, and the day-to-day then is attached to that. The tactics, the day-to-day of what you do, the easy, the hard, the tedious, they're rooted into something you love. So chase what you love. Find out who and what you are as early in life as you can and pursue it.
Well, who helped you discover this and maybe even your leadership capabilities? Does somebody come to mind as someone that just believed in you or helped you the most in this journey? People come to mind?
Yeah, I've I suppose like most, have had a lot of people help me along the way. Too many to try to name, to be fair, but I think anyone that takes a chance on you from an employment standpoint. So I spent a lot of years at Burkhardt Advertising, local family-owned business. It's now since sold. So I would say the family it's a small family, so all 4 of them knew me. And so just to give you take a chance on me to put me in some kind of a management role, and then give me the freedom to fail and succeed. So first of all, I had to look back at the opportunities given to me by that family and that company. Around that, then Rick Rice is a guy that comes to mind. He was the CEO at Teachers Credit Union. Was always there for a conversation, for feedback, for advice. Steve Watts is in the banking industry for many years, and he's been a great mentor to many people. Again, always there when needed, when called upon. A guy named Mike Wargo, same thing. These people become friends, and they're all, maybe just a couple clicks ahead of me career-wise. 2 of those guys are retired, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I would say those are some people that, were there for me as a younger person, developing and trying to figure out my path. It's not, I don't know that I figured it out early. And, sometimes I wonder, do I have anything figured out? And then I had to look at my current owner. His name's Eric Kuss. He's had a long, successful career, and he's patience would never maybe be a word to describe him, but he has shown, I think, remarkable patience as I've grown and evolved in this role. He's sat in the office next door knowing maybe I'm struggling with something or scuffling, and knowing he could come in and make it easier for me, and had the patience as the owner of the company to let me learn by doing. And sometimes you come away with some scars and some bumps and bruises. So he gave me the chance to do something at a level I've never done, and then has allowed me the time to grow and learn and have good days and bad days. So Eric would be another, probably at the end, final analysis, we'll probably have to say that Eric would be the one that gave me the best opportunity to do a job, but then to let me learn from it where others would maybe be less patient.
When you were talking about the advice that you give, you mentioned that, knowing why you do it. Mm-hmm. And when you think about maybe your why or what matters in your life, what comes to mind as you've thought about that over time? What comes out?
I'm a people person. I value relationships. Don't get me wrong. Part of going home at the end of the day is getting away from people. Mm-hmm. But by and large, I value relationships. So you have to love what you do. That includes the people you do it with and do it for. Okay. So the things I value would be people, whether it's family, my kids, my coworkers, our vendors, our customers, people in the community, also working hard to do something good. A community has got to be vibrant together. Mm-hmm. So working together with people that you don't do anything with in business, but you are in business together because you're in the same community. So just people. That's what I value is people.
Well, enjoying who you do work with, who you do life with, that kind of transitions us into a culture question that I've got for you. Anything come to mind that you guys do here to build that culture in which people want to work here or do life with others?
Yeah. So we have 5 core values at Goshen Stamping. Team/family, must be respectful to all, speak and act honestly, every problem has a solution, and deliver results. Okay? Those aren't just a slogan or a saying. In fact, you won't even see them published anywhere, which is a bit embarrassing. And the reason I point that out is it's a tool for us. So when faced with a difficult situation with an employee, we can start right with the core values.
Yeah.
Live this core value, okay? So we use it as a tool. It's an operationalized tool. And then from that, hopefully everything strategically and tactically is can be tied to a core value. So then it's the little things you do. I think this week, maybe next, is the dinner we're going to have, the holiday dinner. We all come together for a little extended lunch for everybody, and we bring in a catered meal, T-shirts that we give people, the stuff we give like anybody does. But I would say the things that we can look back on, my time here, is we've really stood next to people in their worst hours. We've had people battling legal issues, addiction issues. And when you're dealing with those things, typically you find yourself being fired from a job, okay? You point out, or your performance suffers, and someone will just say, well, we can't have this, and you're no longer with us. We haven't done that as much. If someone shows they really want to be a part of this, part of our family and our team, but they're struggling, we'll stand by them. We've stood by people who've had health issues, and where maybe another company would have dismissed them because they can't work. We haven't. We've absorbed a lot of expense, waiting for people to get healthy, and in some cases they don't. So we've waited months, if not years, for people to get healthy, and they don't get healthy, and unfortunately they pass. Well, so I think those are the things that, the hats, the lunches, those are great, right? Those are fleeting, though. I think when a company sees you do make a decision to stand by somebody at their worst hour, when they need somebody, especially an employer. I mean, nothing provides stability like a good home and a good employer. Well, a good employer, in my opinion, can lead to a good home, okay? You have steady job, steady income, you can go home to something steady. So we'll stand by people. We'll stand by people.
I love that. For a variety of reasons. Thanks for sharing that. I'm happy we got into that. With core values, they've got to become a part of the fabric of the company, right? They've got to become habits. And as you look at some of the habits maybe in your life that allow you to be operating at optimal levels, anything comes to mind for you that allows you to kind of lead the way that you do?
Well, one of the hard questions is you sent the questions in advance, and some of these I told you were hard. That was one of them. I don't consider myself remarkable in anything I do. I think just looking at some of the guests you've had, there's some remarkable people on there that I've either known directly and worked with, whether it's through philanthropic or volunteerism, or of them reputationally. I don't think of myself as a remarkable person. So I guess habitually, what do I do to try to pull it all together? One, you have to have experience. You have to educate yourself. I was once I won't say prolific reader, but I've read a lot. And of late, I probably listen more. So whether it's a podcast, book on tape, social media is full of great information. I'll admit it. Some stuff you kind of read and go, oh, that was garbage at the end, or some of it you bookmark and want to come back to. So you have to know your craft. I didn't come here with a manufacturing background or even stamping. So you have to learn your craft. So you have to do a lot of learning of things, okay? And then what I guess I do is when I am home, I try to just find quiet time. And I guess I would say, I don't know if it's meditative, but it's quiet where I can just sit and think. And try not to have the phone with me, whether it's outside. We're getting into that time of year where I can't sit outside as much. But for me, it's sitting outside, even in the garage with the heater on or whatever, and just contemplating, whether it's family, faith, work, and if it's a challenge or an opportunity or a problem, I just think in the quiet, that's where things start to surface. That whether it's clarity or understanding a situation, maybe not always the answer, but so I just try to find time daily and weekly to be in quiet time. And if I don't get it for a long enough period of time, I can kind of tell. I know when I'm starting to get a little buggy.
Well, when I asked about core values and kind of what matters to you, immediately people came out of your mouth. And I think despite the habits that we have in our life, one of the most important habits, whether it's a habit or not, as a leader is to care about people. So you obviously think about that often, reflect on that often, and it's a part of what you do, and it's probably why you're doing such a nice job here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I do care about the people, very much so.
Well, when you think about failures in life and maybe a lesson that you learn from one, does one stick out that would be beneficial to a listener?
I was in a job once. I won't say any names, protect the innocent, so to speak. There's a lot of long, sordid details behind the story, but it ended with me being promoted over by two people that used to report to me. One I saw coming, and I could live with that one. One I didn't see coming.
Okay.
And that one was still to this day I don't understand. Okay.
Wow.
So, and to not be given any heads up, any notice, a difficult conversation wasn't had. It was told in a group setting where I was probably the most hurt. So, that scar remains. That scar will never go away. And I'll never forget that day I went home. Certainly it was embarrassing. It was humiliating. It was awful. And one of my sons was home from school. I would guess him to be in the 10-year-old range back then, maybe less. And I just needed a hug from somebody. He just happened to be there. And I just said, Dad could use a hug right now. And I know I didn't hug him. I basically more or less collapsed on top of him.
Wow.
So that was a Monday, right after the holiday season. Great way to start the new year. So I had to dust myself off, and I had to come back to work the next day. And some people would have just maybe made a fatal decision and just said, I quit. To heck with you. I didn't choose that path. I guess I chose the path of just wait. Just wait and be patient. Live with it a little bit and just see what comes from it. So that was tough because I lived in that for a couple of years, and then from that opportunity sprang. One of them didn't work out. Another opportunity within that, came up, and that was fun, and then ultimately led to this opportunity. So at the end of the day, you look back at a thing like that, and what do you take from it? Well, I suppose I took toughness. You got to tough it out. Not every day goes your way. And maybe even then humility, right? Maybe there was a reason why I didn't get, there's a reason maybe that happened. So I'm still not 100% sure, but maybe you got to look back and go, all right, well, what was I not doing? What do I need to do better? What do I need to improve on? And, taught me some of those lessons. So.
Well, how do you weave that into how you lead people then? I mean, does that absolutely come up in your thinking of we need to just at least share the why?
Yes. Oh, it's back to what I said earlier about the tough conversations. Honesty. I believe people deserve to know why you're doing something you're doing. A story that here with a current employee. This employee had been with us, I believe, was working here when I got here, so has been here a long time. And that's one of the employees that we stood by as I mentioned earlier, had some legal issues and held that person's job for them, believed in them, advocated for them, with the judge. So we went to bat for that employee, and that employee came back and has grown, has taken on responsibility. Well, that journey for that employee can be impatient. And the employee was doing a job that we needed done badly. And I just said, I can't do it now. I need you to continue to doing what you're doing. But just so you know, there's nothing I value more than development from within, watching people grow and take on more and more responsibility. And so your time will come, but I just have to be honest. It can't be this day, this week, this month. So please be patient with me. That person has come back to me multiple times and said that was a day I earned that person's respect.
Wow.
Because I was just honest. And I don't think that's a difficult thing to be. So I was a little like, really, that's what it was? It's just honesty? Like, isn't everybody honest? And maybe I guess I've been accused of being too honest. Maybe there's some things I should keep closer to the vest from time to time. Well, we're a group, we're a team. I might have a certain role within that team, but I think the more information you can share, you have to. So anyway, that was one of the successes here, and that's an employee that I enjoy, and hopefully that person enjoys me. I know we give each other a lot of grief on a day-to-day basis in a fun way. So.
Well, the idea of being honest, being transparent, approaching things with humility, it's clear that you're creating a high trust environment. And when you do that, you can get to solutions much faster.
Yeah, we've had some challenges there. We've had some people that were in positions to impact that trust, and we think did so negatively. We had to have tough terminal conversations with some people, and it always ends with the people that are left who might feel naked. Hey, no, you were being held back. This is your opportunity to do the things you think you needed to do but weren't doing. Here's our goal, period. Hit it. And just don't make a fatal mistake. Don't make the $1 million mistake. But if you got to go make $1,000 mistake in pursuit, go do it. So yeah, you just give people the high level goals. And then you turn them loose, and then you realize you start to figure out where they're going to hit the ceiling, where they've kind of tapped out on their own, and then you go get whatever resource they need, whether it's a tool, an investment in a skill, or maybe you need to bring in a mentor or a teacher or a coach type position. So just tell people what you want, and when you have that trusting, I think, environment where people care for each other, care for the company, care for the employees, they'll go above and beyond to figure it out, and they will figure it out in ways that you never kind of dreamt of. So
I've got one final question for you, and then I'll get your kind of just final thoughts on anything. But when you think about people doing nice things for you, kind things for you, what's one of the kindest things someone's done for you, your family, the company, fill in the blank?
Yeah. There's one just struck me that I hadn't considered. I'll give you two then. So we had a family tragedy where I lost two nephews to accidental drug overdose. And it was a fairly newsworthy event about 10 years ago. And a lot of news coverage about these two boys. And it happened in the summer, shortly after high school, college graduation time. So coming into the holidays was a hard time. So there's an organization called Christmas Commandos. And it's a great organization. I know the person that founded it, and the place, the love in her heart for this is just remarkable. So Christmas morning, people who go through tough times wake up with a basket of goodies. When I say basket, it's not a basket. It's a lot of stuff to show the people that are going through tough times how they're loved and cared for. Wow. So, it was, my in-laws, they received just some remarkable gifts. I knew it was coming. I was tipped off. But what I wasn't tipped off is there was a little something for my family at our front door. I just didn't see that coming. But the work one that really means a lot to me, and I carry it to this day, is we had a fire November 30th, 2022. And it was pretty disruptive, not fatal. No one got hurt, thank God. And it didn't shut us down for long, but it's been a long haul. I had a job to do. Like, I had a leadership role to play. And I just did what I had to do. I mean, I didn't think I was doing anything remarkable. 2 or 3 days into it, in our mailboxes, there was a card in my mailbox, and it was a thank you from the employees for caring and doing what I was doing at that time. And I was shocked, and I carry that card with me still.
Wow. Well, what final thoughts do you have about leadership, something here at Goshen Stamping? Any message you'd like to deliver before we wrap up?
Wow. Leadership's a big topic, so I don't know if I could pick any one thing. Last Friday I had a joke, and it wasn't a joke. The great Jackie Moon from you know.
Yep.
Had a saying for his team, the Tropics, everybody love everybody. And I sent it to a couple members of our leadership team, and I said, this is my motto for Goshen Stamping. Seriously. And I sent a clip of that from the movie. Everybody love everybody. And I think if you do that, and it's vendors, customers, employees, family, I think everything can work itself out from there.
Well, thank you for doing this. Thanks for being a guest on the podcast.
It's an honor. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Happy we were able to lock this in.
Yes.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of The Path Less Traveled with the President of Goshen Stamping, Jeff Breiler. Until next week, have a great day.
That's it for this week's episode of the Path Less Traveled podcast. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. From Craig Heatherly and all of us, thank you for listening.